Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Well, we have certainly changed everything, and we have Joe KARP. He's not changed because, we have been doing this for so many years. So, Joe, are you safe and happy?
I am safe. I am personally okay. I am happy is a strange word. I'm content with what our position is under this circumstance, but nobody can be happy about these circumstances. But we're doing okay. I want to sort of tell people what's going on in my law firm, and everybody knows that I have been telling them for over 20 years when I speak to you that you always have to plan. Planning is critical and doable. And fortunately, I didn't plan for this, but I planned for possibilities where my office would not be operational. Thought it would be hurricanes, right? Didn't think it'd be a pandemic. So fortunately, once I saw the pandemic coming, I had previously taken care of working for hurricanes. So every one of my staff people have computers that we have. They all have laptops now rather than big towers, and those laptops can work right into our system. So we were prepared that they could work from home. Every one of our phones, direct lines to the staff or what the receptionist desk, etc., rings on a separate line on their cell phones. So I had prepared for this for other reasons. And then I've been planning for 2 weeks how we would orchestrate. I didn't think it would be this severe, but I figured if a couple of kids got sick in school, the schools would close, my staff couldn't come to work, and I thought there would be legitimate concerns about people traveling. So I had planned for a meeting 2 weeks ago tomorrow to decide how we would train the staff on what to do from home. But 2 weeks ago Sunday, I met and I said, we're shutting down the physical plant starting Tuesday. We contacted all of our employees and said, come in Monday, and your job is going to be rounding up the stuff you need to work from home starting Tuesday. So we're finishing our second week of being office closed but business working. So we've been able to handle things, and so we had planned for the possibility, and I was not going to take any chances with the health and well-being of my clients, my staff, their families, everybody go home.
Right.
So if you called our receptionist, she would answer the phone on her cell phone. Now, it's Saturday, so she's off, and she would have been off. But she'll answer the phone on that and forward you to the right person. If you've been dealing with our Medicaid people or our other paralegals, you have their direct numbers that you've been dealing with. You call their desk, and it's going to ring on their cell phone. So we're all getting our emails. We're all getting everything. We have the ability for scanning, so they can send me a letter for me to review, me to sign, scan it back to them, and they can get it out to whomever it has to go to. So we have been a virtual office for that purpose operationally. We've also been a virtual office for dealing with clients. We've been conducting client contacts and conferences over the phone. We're working on getting visual, but many of our clients don't. We've been doing conferences that we would have done after seminars and stuff. We're doing those as well. So we've been able to communicate with clients, and there's a lot of concern. Most of our clients prefer the phone, but we have the ability to deal with them, and there's a lot of concern. I am surprised at how many people have just decided, boy, this is important, and they're calling up. They don't have powers of attorney. They don't have their wills are out of date. Their trusts are out of date. And we're getting a lot of calls on that. Now we're dealing with phase 2 of the problem, and we think we've got it worked out. We're working on arrangements because everything I've talked about has been how to deal with us. Call us up, and I'll give the phone number and website a couple of times in a few minutes. But now we're working on arrangements so that, and by the way, our paralegals are preparing estate planning documents that the lawyers have given them. The lawyers get to review them all and correct them all and clear them all as if they were sitting in the office. It's a little slower, because you can't turn to somebody, but it's working. And now our clients are clamoring to sign documents.
But how does that work then? How do they have to come in and sign it or what?
We are working on a system, and I don't want to discuss it, but we will. But basically, it's going to be like a drive-by signing. We're going to have reviewed all the documents with the clients over the phone, and we're going to have a way that they can sign with keeping distance from us, even sitting in their car, that will have gloves and stuff like that and say, you've already reviewed everything, and we will all be standing far away from each other and them, but in their presence, right? It doesn't say you have to sit around the table. So we're going to have reviewed everything with our clients in advance, so when they come down, they're ready to sign. And we'll have all the sanitary and health precautions in place. And that's going to be starting next week. And that's not something I wanted to do. But I've had so many people with such trepidation and such fear. And this is going to be a hell of a lot safer than going to Publix. Okay?
Yeah, that's true. I haven't gone to Publix since this happened. I've had enough food, and I haven't wanted to do that. Are you going to the store?
Very infrequently. I have food, but when I go, I keep my distance. I wear gloves because, remember, when you're in a supermarket and you're saying, oh, do I want this tuna fish or that, the person before you may have picked up that can and touched it and put it down right after they had wiped their mouth.
Right.
So I wear gloves, and I'll give some advice to people, but the answer is you shouldn't be running to Publix like you used to. It's not a social event. It's a necessary event. And many of the stores have delivery services or, again, drive-by where you can do it. I was surprised. Many of you are familiar with 2J's, right? 2J's, according to their email to me, is now selling groceries.
Really?
Now, it may be, I just made an assumption of why. They probably got a gazillion eggs sitting on the shelf that nobody's coming in for omelets, okay? And you don't want to buy an omelet, but they're willing to sell eggs. So they have a system in place, according to an email I got from them, that it can be done. So,
but I'm going to ask you a question regarding your clients. So when they're in their car, do they have their own pens? Because that's another place
we'll
that
have
could
that
be
all
contaminated.
orchestrated. We'll have, first of all, we'll give them pens that are sanitized and held by a sanitary thing, and they will keep the pen. There's going to be, we don't want anything back.
Right.
Other than the paper, which we will let then decontaminate if it's contaminated. So we'll be able to do these things, and we'll be wearing gloves and things like that.
So what will you do with the paper when you get it back from them?
We'll hold on to it until it's safe to get it back to them. Whether it'll be they want it FedExed in a week or two, or whether they want to have us hold it and just let their family members know. We're going to work it out now. So we're not encouraging people to want it, but there are some people who want it. They have been talking forever about changing their documents. And there were some people, by the way, totally benignly, that were just in the queue. You know, if you came and hired us February 15th and we said, we'll sign with you March 15th, well, that didn't happen. Or March 20th, whatever it was. So we put those people off not knowing how long. Some of them put themselves off before we could, but we were putting them off. Again, health comes first. You don't really need that half gallon of ice cream as much as you need your health. My policy is everybody should behave as if they have the coronavirus and as the person that they're near has it. Behave that way and you're safe.
Let me ask you a couple of questions regarding all of this. So let's say that someone does pass away and it's one of your clients. How are you going to deal with getting everything to other people, because they may not be on your same path? They don't know what you're doing.
Give me an example. You mean somebody we're holding the documents for?
Yes.
Well, the family will know we have it. And what would normally happen is when somebody dies, we don't hold on to people's documents regularly. Somebody gets the paperwork, but we have copies of it, so we can start working on things to assist the families, and we can email them retainer agreements, and we can email them pleadings, and we can send them pleadings. And with the court system right now, there's something called e-filing. So you don't go to the court to file those papers anymore. You have to file them electronically anyway, and it's the duty of the lawyer to hold on to it. So we've been doing stuff like this electronically for quite a while. And we've been we have tons of cases where you have your traditional family, mom and dad and the kids. That's your traditional family. It's already non-traditional if you think they're all in Florida to deal with it. But we run into this in the winter where the kids can't come down. So there's lots of things we can do. And sometimes things are going to be just slower. They could shut the court down on us. But if it's a trust, we know what to do, and we can get things back and forth. And as long as people can properly execute things under our supervision, and that means either with notes or advice or how they can do it, things can still get done. Will it get done like normal? No. I mean, look, America has now learned how to eat at home again. That's not what they used to do.
It's a whole new thing. That's right.
So,
glad you brought that up, because I think that we've all now learned a lot of things that we had forgotten, and many of us young people never even knew. So the older folks are, I think, bringing back many memories of their lives when, there was 9/11, or it was the Depression, or it was the World War II. There's so many things that are coming back that other young people didn't know about. So, this is a big lesson, Joe. This is not casual.
This is an opportunity. I think when time passes, the young people of this time will remember this like your mother remembered the Depression.
Yes.
It has such a dramatic effect. Most of the greatest generation were raised in the Depression, right?
Yep.
They turned 18 in 1942. They were raised in the Depression, and that gave them a whole other sense of values. So I think we have an opportunity to see the second greatest generation evolving as a result of this. That they will have a greater appreciation for each other. They'll have a greater respect for caution with money. That materialism is not sacrosanct. You don't need a lot of stuff. I think that's going to have a whole other, and that relationships are important. Not to mention, of course, lots of toilet paper.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a question because it's been around, but everyone's talking about Zoom. I was wondering if you were doing any meetings on Zoom.
We're working on setting up Zoom meetings as well.
Uh-huh.
We are working on that. So I want to give some tips to people as well. And for those, just in case your phone rings or something, let me give you all our phone numbers and website. And by the way, March 2nd is when I canceled my March seminars. I said,
right,
I'm not going to invite anybody to show up. 561-625-1100, 561-625-1100, and then it's 1-800-893-9911 if you don't want to call a local number. The website is KARP Law, KARPLAW.com, KARPLAW.com. There's information on it. We're going to be updating things with regard to how we're going to deal with people with signings and things. I want to talk about the new law that was signed yesterday by the president. There's some things that people, and we're going to start giving tips from that people don't know that I want them to be aware of. Number one, income tax filing. You no longer have to file your tax by April 15th. You don't have to file for an extension. It's automatically extended to July 15th. Automatically. If you owe income tax, you don't have to pay it till July 15th, and there will be no penalties or interest on that income tax. So if you owe income tax, they want you to be able to keep some of your cash flow and hold on to it. So you don't have to pay and you will until July 15, and you will not have a penalty or interest on that. But if you do file and you're entitled to a refund, it should be processed within 3 to 4 weeks. Next, there's IRA interesting news. If you take a look at one of the things that's happened is many people's portfolios in their IRAs have dropped dramatically. And the rule has been forever, since there are IRAs, that you take the value of your account on December 31st of that prior year, and you have required minimum distributions if you're over the age of 70 and a half. They switched that rule to 72 previously, but you had required minimum distributions. And for the most part, for many people, as they were pulling it out, because the stock market kept going up, their IRA didn't diminish. So let's just assume, and I'm making up the numbers for simplicity's sake, that somebody has to pull out their IRA within the next 10 years. That's their required minimum distributions. Most of the listeners have far more years, but I'm using it for simple math. And assume that you had $200,000 in your IRA, which meant this year you would have to pull out 10%. Okay? Now, unfortunately, your $200,000 IRA is dropped 30%. So you're now down to $140,000. So if you pulled out the required minimum distribution, which is 10% of $200,000, you would have to pull out $20,000. That would bring you down to $120,000. So they have announced that there are no required minimum distribution withdrawals this year. None. You don't have to take the money out of your IRA. So for your listeners who are doing it and would rather stop, some of them are doing it on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, You don't have to do it this year because they're hoping that those portfolios will build back up, and they don't want you to force you to dissipate them. So if you're taking required minimum distributions, you don't have to this year. Now, there's another interesting rule. People under 59 and a half, it used to be you could not take money out of NIRA till you're 59 and a half, except for special exceptions, without penalty, right? They've now changed the rule. Have I got you, Anita?
Oh, yeah. I'm listening very
Okay.
carefully. In fact, I was going to interrupt you and just say, this is what makes you such a great lawyer, because you have all these facts. So it's not just signing documents or working on wills and trusts and all. This is very important stuff you're doing, Joe.
And this is stuff that I'm trying to, what I do is, it's out there, but people don't know where to look, and people aren't getting that advice. So they've changed the rule for this year. People under 59 and a half can take money from a traditional IRA if they have a coronavirus hardship, like job loss, income loss. They can take it out penalty-free, so you don't pay the 10% penalty on taking the money out, up to $100,000. So if you had done that last year and took out $100,000, you would have paid a penalty on that of $10,000, and of course you would have paid income tax on the $100,000 that you pulled out. Now what they're saying is, number one, it is a penalty-free withdrawal. You can pay the taxes over the next 3 years, so you're not paying income tax on the $100,000 right away, right? And next, if you return the $100,000, I'm using that because that's the maximum number, you can return that money if you return it within 3 years, and then there you pay no taxes on the money you took out. It effectively becomes a loan to yourself. And
that's excellent. It's wonderful stuff that you're sharing with everyone, Joe.
Next, everybody's been warned about the Real ID. Get your driver's license fixed with the star on it because that's due. And everybody has to get it done by October 1. That rule has been relaxed, and they don't know when it's going to occur. So you don't need to get the Real ID because they don't want you trying to go to the Division of Driver's Licenses to get your picture taken again.
Right.
This is a lower priority. Not to mention nobody's going on a plane right now. So
oh, my goodness, Joe. This is fantastic stuff. I'm so glad that you were able to do this today on the radio show.
And I'll have more tips as we go. They'll be posted on my website, karplaw.com, and people should know that there's – so I'm trying to give people some sense of – and both of the things I've just shown them are things of real value potentially. I mean, because if you take the $100,000 out of your IRA and because of the coronavirus now, and again, of course, you're going to be under 59 and a half where the penalty would occur. So people who are over 70, there's no penalty to take money out. But this is to save some of these families. This is to help families live through this because we will get through this. We will be stronger as a result. We've discussed that, Anita, off the air. And we'll have a greater appreciation for things that are important. So we're getting calls from people, and they can call up, and people will set telephone conferences for them. And there's going to have to be some ability to communicate electronically if you have, because the best advice is based on when we have information. So, but we can help people still. You're not in an abyss. And virtual conferences, we've been doing them for years. Now, with the average resident of Palm Beach County or St. Lucie County, they would come into our office and they'd meet, etc. But a lot of it is done over the phone. We've done it with the children forever because the children want to know my mother's in the nursing home, what can we do? That's a separate problem, by the way. Can't get into a nursing home. And I'm not talking about residents. I've had 2 clients already admitted to her nursing homes from hospitals for rehab. But just like in New York, they're not letting husbands in the delivery room with the wives. In Florida, spouses can't go into the nursing homes or assisted living. They're all under lockdown for security reasons, and we saw what happened in Oregon.
And we have to say goodbye. We have the music going, and that's what I'm not there in the studio. So, Jack, so much, Joe. I appreciate your...
I'll give the numbers again, 1-800-893-9911, KARPlaw.com. Stay safe and think twice before going out to the store.
Yes, Joe. Thank you. Be safe, and we'll talk.
Go fast. Take care.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Bye-bye.